All Democrats. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, who has not shied away one bit from this fight, joining us now in a Finnerty exclusive. Mr. Chairman, take us through what happens next and how certain are you that this will happen on those two dates later this month?
I'm 100% certain. Look, what the Clintons saw today was that there were going to be a whole lot of Democrats join with every Republican in holding them in contempt of Congress. And they know that the Merrick Garland Department of Justice set a precedent against people who defy congressional subpoenas. They did that to Navarro and Bannon after they were held in contempt of Congress. So once the Clintons realized that the writing was on the wall and they couldn't get more than one Republican to peel over and we were going to gain some Democrats, then they said, okay, all right, we give in. We'll do whatever we need.
Yeah.
And what we need is a full subpoena, and that's what we're going to get.
So they waved the white flag after, what, 6 months, finally today. The New York Times is reporting that the Clintons wanted a public hearing. Is that true? And if it is, why not do this publicly?
Well, yeah, the deposition will be made public. It's going to be audio, video, and the transcripts will be released. So what the subpoena was for and what the contempt was for, Rob, was for a sit-down deposition. Depositions are always the preferred means of getting information from a witness. If you look at history, congressional hearings, they may be entertaining, but they're not very substantive. You go 5 minutes back and forth, members yelling and screaming at each other. And I think we've seen with the Oversight Committee, it's a very, very disruptive committee, and I try to do my best to keep people in order, but that's a rough set of characters on both sides of the aisle on the Oversight Committee. So we're going to do the depositions. That's what the subpoena was for. And after the depositions, if the Clintons want more, they're more than welcome to come to the House Oversight Committee after they're deposed. If they want to testify in a public hearing in front of the Oversight Committee, they are more than welcome to do that.
Okay, so are you going to be in the room with Bill and Hillary, or are these over video?
We're going to be in the room, and any member of Congress on the Oversight Committee will be in the room. So there'll be a lot of members of Congress in the room with the Clintons. Okay,
are you concerned that Bill's just going to plead the fifth like we saw with Joe Biden's doctor, Kevin O'Connor?
I think it's going to be difficult for Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton to plead the fifth because they've been talking a big game for the last 24 hours that they want the American people to see. They want the American people to learn the truth and all that. Okay, well, if the truth is you can't answer the questions, you plead the fifth, then I think that's going to be a mark that will ban them from social gatherings and everything else, because most liberals in America are very concerned about getting the truth, the Epstein whole investigation. I don't think the truth's what they think it is, but they want anyone that spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein to have to answer questions. And the Clintons, to my knowledge, have never really sat down and answered questions. They've never been interviewed about it, unlike President Trump, who gets asked daily, including today, including just a few hours ago, dozens of questions about Epstein. Bill Clinton's never, to my knowledge, nor has Hillary, ever answered any questions. Now's going to be their opportunity.
No, to me, this has become a Bill Clinton, Bill Gates story, certainly not a Donald Trump story. And I don't say that because I work at Newsmax. Show me why it's a Donald Trump story, and maybe I'll change my mind. Bill Clinton's chief of staff tweeted that they negotiated in good faith and that you did not, but the former president and former secretary of state are going to be there. They look forward to the setting a precedent that applies to everyone. Can you tell us when they tried to negotiate in good faith? I don't remember that.
Well, they acted like they were going to come in months ago, and then we had a date, and then they called and said they had a funeral. So then we set the next date, and they never would confirm whether they came in. We were there. We sat at the table. They blew it off. That's when that's when I filed the legislation to hold them in contempt. They didn't think that I would get the votes. You know, we struggled to get votes to hold the Bidens accountable. There were a lot of waffly Republicans back then, and the Democrats all stuck together. What they were surprised to learn is the Democrat women, they want the Clintons to testify. So when they saw they had lost public support and they had lost support among a lot of the left-wing Democrats, then they threw in the white flag.
Okay, quick one just about Bill Gates. Clearly, he had a dynamic with Jeffrey Epstein. Seems like he knew him pretty well. He might have gotten an STD from a Russian prostitute, allegedly. Does your committee have any plans to ask Bill Gates for his testimony?
Well, that's something we're discussing. We're going to sit down and talk about that more. I don't want to do anything to hurt this deposition. I don't want to do anything to where Gates rolls in with a bunch of attorneys over the next 3 weeks and the Clintons say, oh, well, this happened with Bill Gates. So we're focused on getting the Clintons in there, and we have two other
depositions. But it sounds like that's a possibility.
In the Epstein investigation.
Mr. Chairman, it sounds like that's a possibility.
Everything's on the table.
Okay.
Everything's on the table as
and
we
just
continue
quickly,
to digest the 3 million pages of documents.
We haven't seen a president testify on Capitol Hill, I don't think, since Gerald Ford in 1983. How do you prepare for somebody as slick as Bill Clinton? I've only got about 30 seconds, sir.
Well, it's going to be a challenge, and I've told my staff who are going to be leading the deposition, many are younger attorneys. I said, you don't remember Bill Clinton in the 90s. That was when I was in college, and he's a pretty slick dude, and Hillary, she held her own against Trey Gowdy. So they're going to be a challenge, but look, we're not trying to trick them. All we're trying to do is get the truth to the American people and try to figure out how the government failed the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, and that's what this investigation is all about. And we're just going to ask the Clintons a lot of questions based on the evidence that we now have in the form of the estate documents and what President Trump released, and go from there.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to having you back. Good luck to you during both those hearings later this month. We appreciate it. James Comer, thank you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.